Racist man punches little black girl on an airplane. Navy SEAL sees everything and takes action. It all starts with a flight bound for Seattle from Atlanta on a humid summer morning. Passengers bustle through the jet bridge, searching for seat numbers, wrestling with carry-ons, and trying their best to navigate narrow aisles. Everyone seems tired, yet eager to settle in for the cross-country trip. The cabin crew gently urges folks to place their luggage in the overhead bins or under seats, asking them to clear the walkway so everyone can board as efficiently as possible. In the midst of this routine chaos, few realize that an incident will soon unfold, one so disturbing and unexpected that it will change the course of the flight and the lives of those involved forever. Before we begin this intense story, feel free to let everyone know in the comments where you're watching from. We're always curious how far our community reaches, and your voice matters. Now, let's embark on this journey together. From the outside, the flight seems like any other. Crammed into row after row are professionals wearing suits, families traveling with restless children, and adventurous souls gearing up to explore new places. A sense of mundane predictability hangs in the air as the last few people find their seats. Flight attendants announce the standard instructions. Seatbelts must be fastened, tray tables stowed, electronic devices switched to airplane mode until further notice. The mechanical hum of the engines underscores everything, a constant reminder that they will soon be airborne. Seated near the front, close to the aisle, is a man named Todd Whitaker. He has a stern expression and watches other passengers with a wary eye. He is dressed in business casual attire, but there is a tension in how he grips the armrests. His chin juts out ever so slightly, as though daring someone to challenge him. Anyone passing by might not notice the simmering anger behind his gaze. They might only see a man who seems impatient to get to his destination. Yet, beneath the unremarkable exterior, he is a person carrying a bitter mindset that has festered for years, a mindset that will soon reveal itself in a shocking way. Across the aisle is a little girl named Ebony Carter. She is about 7, her hair neatly braided, adorned with vibrant pink barrettes. Her eyes shine with excitement, for she and her mother Janice are traveling to Seattle for a long-awaited vacation. Ebony cannot stop talking about the wonders she expects to see. Mountains taller than she's ever imagined, a bustling city life, and the possibility of tasting new and exotic foods. The curiosity and optimism that burst from her every syllable are the essence of childhood's innocence and joy. Janice, a caring and attentive mother, gently pats Ebony's shoulder. She reminds her daughter to keep her seatbelt fastened and politely asks her to speak in a softer tone so as not to disturb other passengers. Her eyes flick around the cabin, noticing the other travelers, and for a moment she catches Todd's stare. The coldness she sees makes her uneasy. She tells herself it might just be stress on his part. Perhaps he's worried about a missed connection or a work assignment. She brushes off the concern because, in her experience, it is often best not to judge someone based on an initial glower. Yet, she can't ignore a subtle knot tightening in her stomach, the kind of silent warning mothers often sense. A few rows behind Ebony and Janice sits Logan Shaw. He is tall, athletically built, and has the quiet confidence of a man trained to navigate life-threatening situations. A recently retired Navy SEAL, he has spent much of his adult life in covert operations. Though he exudes calm, he remains perpetually alert, scanning his environment in a habit ingrained by years of service. Logan's eyes pause on Todd for a moment. He notices the stiff posture, the shallow breathing, and the way Todd's fist clenches when Ebony speaks. Logan feels an odd twinge of apprehension, but he can't identify the cause. He takes mental note of it and shifts his gaze elsewhere. No immediate threat is apparent, so he settles into his seat and closes his eyes, thinking maybe he will catch a brief nap during the flight. Ebony and Janice settle in, flipping through the in-flight magazine as they wait for takeoff. Ebony giggles at an ad showing an animated moose wearing sunglasses. She leans over to show Janice, who laughs softly and shares in her daughter's playful excitement. Despite trying to maintain a respectful volume, Ebony's laughter seems to echo in Todd's ears, grating against his nerves. Todd adjusts his position and mutters under his breath, something along the lines of, "Kids, can't they keep quiet?" The complaint is barely audible to anyone else, but Ebony hears a muffled, vaguely hostile tone. She looks up in confusion, unsure what she has done wrong. Janice notices her daughter's expression and follows the child's gaze across the aisle. She meets Todd's eyes again, and this time she recognizes a flicker of resentment. She gently squeezes Ebony's shoulder, offering reassurance without words. Janice can't quite place what might be amiss, but she senses something is off. An announcement from the flight crew signals that the plane is ready for takeoff. Flight attendants move down the aisle, demonstrating safety instructions. Ebony, always curious, pays close attention, fascinated by the life vest, the oxygen mask demonstration, and the seatbelt procedure. Todd rolls his eyes, apparently eager to get on with the flight. Logan discreetly continues his silent observation from a few rows back, noticing Todd's impatience. Years of specialized training have given Logan an almost sixth sense for tension. He sees the vein bulging in Todd's neck, the clenched jaw. It prompts Logan to remain alert. He's learned never to dismiss subtle clues to potential conflict. The plane's engines roar to life, and soon it rushes down the runway. Ebony gasps in delight as she feels the gravitational pull during liftoff. She presses her forehead to the small window, watching the ground shrink away beneath her. The cityscape becomes a patchwork of roads, buildings, and neighborhoods. She marvels at how tiny everything appears from above, exclaiming that it looks like a toy city. Janice smiles, glad to see her daughter so enthralled. Todd, however, grimaces at the cheerful commentary as if even these innocent remarks set him on edge. As the plane reaches cruising altitude, the captain's voice crackles over the PA system, welcoming everyone to relax during the flight and detailing the expected travel time. Flight attendants begin serving drinks and small snacks, rolling carts down the aisles with an assortment of options. Janice requests apple juice for Ebony and some water for herself. Todd orders a coffee, black, refusing any sugar or cream. His tone is curt, making the flight attendant blink in mild surprise. She says nothing, used to dealing with all sorts of temperaments on a daily basis. When Ebony receives her apple juice, she thanks the attendant warmly, trying to mirror the manners Janice has taught her. The flight attendant smiles, clearly taken by Ebony's sweet demeanor, and compliments her braids. Ebony beams, delighted by the attention. Todd sips his coffee, glaring sidelong at Ebony as if every ounce of happiness emanating from that seat is a personal offense. His knuckles whiten around the styrofoam cup, though no one notices except Logan, who remains watchful from behind. Minutes pass, turning into half an hour. Ebony starts flipping through an activity booklet Janice brought along. The pages are filled with coloring sections, connect the dots, and simple puzzles. Ebony chooses a bright pink crayon to start coloring an illustration of a smiling dolphin. She hums lightly to herself, lost in the joy of the moment. Todd's eyes keep drifting to her, filled with an inexplicable animosity. It's a level of disdain that a child's simple happiness should never provoke. Janice leans toward Ebony, offering help with a particularly tricky word search. They share a moment of whispering and laughter. Todd clears his throat loudly, casting them a withering glare. Janice lifts her head, startled, and meets his hostile stare. For a moment, no words are exchanged, but the tension is palpable. Janice wants to say something. to break the unsettling silence, but a wave of caution washes over her. She decides to prioritize her daughter's comfort and safety over a confrontation with a stranger who might be dealing with personal frustrations. Logan, noticing the exchange, unbuckles his seatbelt and stands to stretch, pretending he needs to move around. He walks past Todd's row, making a quick assessment. There's a rising hostility in Todd's eyes. Logan also notices Ebony's uneasy expression. Although the situation is not yet explosive, the undercurrent is troubling. Logan decides to keep an even closer watch. He has seen conflict escalate from nothing, especially when fueled by prejudice or an inexplicable sense of loathing. The seeds of an altercation are all here. Todd's tense posture, Ebony's increasing discomfort, Janice's concern. Logan's instincts whisper that trouble is looming. He returns to his seat, picks up a sports magazine from the seat back pocket, and pretends to read. In reality, he's listening intently for any change in volume, any sign that Todd might be preparing to lash out. He's always believed in stepping up when he sees wrongdoing, a principle forged in the many missions where his team's lives depended on standing together. While he is no longer active duty, the code of protecting others remains ingrained in who he is. Time drifts by. Passengers settle into their in-flight routines. Some watch movies on the tiny screens embedded in the seat in front of them. Others doze off, heads lolling to the side, while a few type busily on laptops, trying to get work done. Ebony and Janice keep their voices soft, but now and then Ebony giggles. Each sound triggers a deeper scowl from Todd. The seatbelt sign pings off, and some passengers wander to the lavatories or stretch in the aisle. The temperature in the cabin remains cool, but Todd looks like he's sweating. He taps his foot repeatedly. He orders another coffee, complaining it's too weak. The flight attendant attempts a courteous response, but Todd's rudeness is jarring. People nearby take notice. Whispers ripple among passengers who sense his agitation, but no one speaks up directly. Ebony suddenly grows fascinated by the in-flight magazine again. She chats with Janice, her voice as gentle as she can manage. Todd abruptly slams his tray table, rattling his coffee cup. Ebony's gaze snaps toward him, fear widening her eyes. Janice stiffens, placing a protective hand on her daughter's arm. Todd glares at them, almost daring them to question his behavior. Logan puts down the magazine, mentally preparing to intervene if necessary. Eventually, Todd leans across the aisle, addressing Janice in a harsh whisper. "Your kid needs to shut up," he hisses. "Some of us want a peaceful flight." His nostrils flare, and his face contorts with an anger that feels disproportionate to the situation. Janice's mouth goes dry. She has never confronted such open hostility toward her daughter. She tries to stay calm, mindful that anger could make a bad situation worse. "She's just a child," Janice replies, her tone controlled. "I've asked her to be quiet. We're not disturbing anyone." Ebony's lower lip trembles. Todd's eyes narrow. "You people always have an excuse," he mutters. The words slice the air like a blade. Janice inhales sharply, grasping the racist undertone in his remark. Before she can formulate a response, Ebony turns her face toward Janice, confusion etched across her features. The child senses the hostility but does not fully understand its source. Logan grips the edge of his seat. He hears the tension in Todd's voice and sees the fear flicker across Janice's face. Yet he holds himself back from stepping in. He knows that an approach too soon might escalate things. Sometimes a silent yet vigilant presence can be more effective. However, he remains ready to move at a moment's notice. Another flight attendant comes by, noticing the tension. She asks if everything is all right. Todd brushes her off, forcing a tight, unpleasant smile. "Just fine," he snaps. Janice nods hesitantly, not wanting to create a scene. The flight attendant hesitates, sensing unease but unsure what exactly is going on. She moves along, hoping the conflict will resolve itself, but she glances back worriedly. Over the next few minutes, Ebony attempts to focus on her coloring, but her posture is rigid. She keeps glancing toward Todd's seat. Janice lifts a hand to stroke Ebony's braids, trying to convey reassurance. The child nods and tries to color, but the lines go crooked because her hands shake. Suddenly, Todd stands up, presumably headed for the lavatory. As he steps into the aisle, he bumps Ebony's elbow. The jolt makes the crayon streak across the page. Ebony gasps, startled. She looks up to see Todd towering above her, his expression dark and menacing. "Apologize," Todd demands. Ebony's mouth opens, her words stuck in her throat. She has no idea what she's done wrong. Janice quickly says, "She didn't do anything. You bumped her, sir." Todd glares at her, a muscle in his jaw twitching. "You think you can accuse me of—" Todd starts to say, but he is interrupted by another passenger waiting behind him in the aisle, trying to squeeze past. Todd steps forward, jabbing an angry finger in Janice's direction. "No respect," he mutters. "I don't care what your excuses are." Then he steps away, heading to the back of the plane. Janice closes her eyes, exhaling slowly. She looks over her shoulder, noticing Logan's intense gaze. Their eyes meet, and in that brief moment, Janice feels a sliver of relief. She senses that if things go terribly wrong, someone strong and level-headed is on her side. Ebony sniffles quietly, her earlier joy replaced by unease and confusion. When Todd returns from the lavatory, he passes by Ebony's seat again, glaring down at her. She draws her shoulders inward, trying to make herself small. Todd makes a little scoffing sound as he sits down, adjusting his belt with a jerk. The flight continues with a heavy air of tension, as though everyone is waiting for the next boiling point. An hour goes by. Turbulence rattles the plane briefly, prompting the seatbelt sign to illuminate. Flight attendants halt their service, and passengers return to their seats. Ebony presses close to Janice, uneasy, not just from Todd's presence, but the sudden shaking of the aircraft. Todd shakes his head, muttering about the airline's incompetence, about how the crew can't seem to find a smooth path in the sky. He looks around, and his eyes land on Ebony again, as if searching for a target to vent his frustrations. Janice distracts Ebony by reading to her from a small storybook she packed, but Ebony keeps glancing toward Todd, worried that any slight noise might anger him. Janice's own nerves are frayed. She silently prays for peace, for the flight to end without further conflict. A mother and son sitting across the aisle notice the dynamics. They exchange concerned glances. The son, a teenager, whispers something to his mother, who shakes her head, signaling they should stay out of it. They watch anxiously, though, as the tension simmers. Logan, still a few rows back, tries to read, but his focus is gone. He's attuned to Todd's every movement, the way Todd's shoulders tense whenever Ebony makes even the slightest sound. Logan knows that if Todd escalates, he must act fast. Though not on active duty, the code of honor within Logan remains unwavering. No innocent person should suffer harm, especially a small child. Finally, Ebony whispers to Janice that she needs to use the restroom. Janice stands, guiding her daughter into the aisle. Todd is forced to move his knees to let them pass, and the scowl on his face deepens. Ebony, in her timid voice, whispers, "Sorry," even though she's done nothing wrong. Todd looks at her and sneers, "Yeah, you should be." Janice's anger flares. She stops short, turning to Todd. Her voice is steady but edged with fury. "Don't speak to my daughter like that." For a second, Todd's lip curls in disdain, but Janice and Ebony slip past before he can retort. They make their way to the back of the plane. Logan considers stepping up to talk to Todd. He hesitates, knowing that sometimes the direct confrontation can light a powder keg. The best approach might be to wait and remain vigilant until he's certain Ebony and Janice are in immediate danger. He learned during his military service that timing can be everything. In the back, Janice quietly comforts Ebony while they wait for the restroom. Ebony's eyes brim with tears. "What did I do wrong, Mama?" she asks. Janice's heart twists at the question. She brushes her thumb against Ebony's cheek. "Nothing, sweetheart. You did absolutely nothing wrong. Sometimes people are just mean, and it's not about you. It's their own hatred." Ebony nods, wiping her tears. She doesn't fully grasp why Todd is so hostile, but she trusts her mother's words. Janice decides to speak to a flight attendant privately. She confides that there's a man near their seats who is behaving aggressively. The attendant listens carefully, concern flickering across her face. She promises to keep an eye on the situation and to speak with the head flight attendant if necessary. Janice thanks her and leads Ebony into the restroom, wanting to avoid Todd as much as possible. When they return, Todd is flipping through a magazine, refusing to look at them. Ebony scoots past him, trying not to make contact. Janice follows, ensuring Ebony is safely in her seat. Todd utters a bitter chuckle. Janice tries her best to ignore it, but her patience is wearing thin. A flight attendant soon makes her way to Todd and speaks in hushed tones, politely inquiring if he's comfortable and whether anything is bothering him. Todd dismisses her with a sharp wave of the hand, claiming he just wants peace and quiet. She notices Janice's tense posture and Ebony's anxious expression. She suggests that if Todd is feeling cramped, perhaps he would like to move to a different seat if one is available. Todd declines vehemently, insisting he paid for this seat and has no intention of moving. The attendant then discreetly speaks to Janice, suggesting that she and Ebony could move if they felt uncomfortable. Janice glances at Ebony, who shakes her head. They've got their bags and coloring books, and Ebony is already buckled in, trying to keep calm. Besides, why should they be the ones forced to move? She politely declines, stating they'll be fine, but appreciates the offer. The attendant, sensing deeper trouble, notes the seat numbers and decides to keep an extra watch, ready to intervene if necessary. Todd, overhearing this exchange, rolls his eyes. "You people always need special treatment," he mutters under his breath. Janice hears him, and so does Ebony. The girl's face contorts in a mixture of hurt and confusion. Meanwhile, Logan sets his jaw, adrenaline beginning to trickle into his system. He knows bigotry when he hears it, and the question now is just how far Todd will take it. Another hour grinds by. The flight is about halfway to Seattle. Tensions that once flickered are now like smoldering embers, ready to burst into flame at the smallest provocation. The cabin has quieted somewhat. Some passengers doze, while others are lost in their own worlds. Ebony tries to keep to herself, focusing on the coloring book, but her pencil lines look shaky. Janice quietly reads, though her eyes scan the same sentence repeatedly. Worry has settled in her chest like a weight, making it hard to concentrate. Logan sets aside his magazine, closes his eyes, and pretends to rest, but every cell in his body remains alert. He contemplates ways to defuse the situation if Todd escalates further. He envisions calmly approaching, speaking in a low tone, and reminding Todd of certain FAA rules about harassment on a plane. Yet, Logan knows men like Todd aren't easily reasoned with. Sometimes, confrontation is inevitable. Suddenly, Ebony sneezes. A harmless, everyday occurrence. She tries to stifle it, but it happens anyway. Todd flinches as if struck. He slams his magazine onto his tray table. "Are you kidding me right now?" he growls, glaring at the girl. Ebony looks up, startled. Janice tenses, ready to defend her daughter. Todd's eyes brim with animosity. "Sneezing and sniffing, and you can't keep still. I've had just about enough." His voice, louder now, draws the attention of nearby passengers. Janice sits upright, feeling her pulse quicken. Ebony flushes red as though she's done something grievously wrong, even though she simply sneezed. Janice says firmly, "Don't speak to her like that. It's a sneeze. People sneeze." Her voice trembles slightly, but she refuses to remain silent. Todd smirks. "Some people don't know how to act in public, I guess." The poisonous implication is clear. Janice feels her anger spike. In the row behind Todd, a woman leans forward and says quietly, "Sir, please calm down. She's just a child." Todd whips his head around, glaring daggers at her. "Mind your own business." The woman shrinks back. Others shift in their seats uneasily, uncertain whether they should intervene. Logan unbuckles his seatbelt. He senses that Todd is reaching a boiling point. Taking a breath, Logan stands up and walks forward. He stops in the aisle near Todd's seat. In a calm, measured voice, he says, "Is everything all right here?" He positions himself so that Todd has to look up to see him, a subtle yet deliberate move. Todd gives Logan a once-over, noticing his muscular build and disciplined posture. For a split second, Todd's aggression falters. Then he juts out his chin. "Who are you supposed to be, the plane police?" Todd snarls. Logan keeps his voice steady. "I'm just a passenger who wants everyone to have a safe flight." He glances at Ebony, giving her a small, reassuring nod. Ebony looks back with hesitant gratitude. Todd sniffs. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I just don't appreciate being disturbed by noisy brats." Hearing that last word, Janice's patience snaps. "You don't call my daughter a brat," she says, her tone ice cold. Todd sneers, "Then teach her some manners." Logan places a hand lightly on the top of Todd's seat. "Sir, I'm asking you politely to lower your voice." Todd glares up at him. "Oh, you're asking politely, are you? You think because you're a big guy you can intimidate me?" Logan doesn't flinch. "I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. But I won't stand by if you continue harassing this family." For a moment, Todd seems to weigh his options. The tension crackles in the air. Then Todd shakes his head in disgust. "I'm done with this nonsense," he mutters. He looks away, signaling an end to the conversation. Logan waits a beat, then nods at Janice and Ebony, returning to his seat. He can't force Todd to behave, but he hopes the presence of someone willing to intervene will keep Todd's aggression in check. The plane grows quiet again, except for the hum of the engines. Janice embraces Ebony, whispering that everything is fine, reminding her to breathe normally and ignore Todd's outbursts. Ebony nods, but she's shaken. She doesn't understand why a stranger seems to hate her so fiercely. Janice feels her daughter's confusion and holds her close. Minutes pass, and Todd broods in his seat, occasionally throwing dirty looks across the aisle. He flips through the magazine again, as if searching for a distraction. The flight attendants scurry up and down the aisle, carrying on with their duties. One of them, the one who spoke to Janice earlier, makes a discreet inquiry to see if a seat can be arranged for Todd away from them. But it's a nearly full flight, with no better option readily available. Just when the tension seems to be subsiding, Ebony drops her crayon. It rolls under the aisle seat, prompting her to unbuckle and reach down to retrieve it. As she does, she accidentally brushes against Todd's foot. Todd reacts as if he's been stabbed. He yanks his foot away and lets out a furious hiss. "What's wrong with you?" he snaps, raising his voice again. Ebony looks up, eyes watering. Janice braces herself. She just dropped her crayon. Calm down. Todd smacks his tray table upright. I've put up with enough of this, he snarls. Then, in a horrifying moment that seems to stretch through time, Todd lashes out. His hand moves faster than Janice can react, striking Ebony on the shoulder and the side of her head in a wild punch. Everything erupts in chaos. Ebony shrieks in pain and terror. Janice screams, lunging at Todd to shield her daughter. Passengers gasp, some jumping to their feet. The flight attendant yells, "Sir! Sir! Stop!" But Todd's rage is unleashed. He yells obscenities, spewing hateful slurs at Ebony and Janice. Logan is out of his seat instantly, his reflexes honed by years of combat training. He moves down the aisle in a flash, wrestling Todd's arm away before he can strike Ebony again. Todd tries to swing at Logan, but Logan deftly dodges. With a controlled maneuver, he immobilizes Todd's arm, keeping Todd pinned against the seat. Todd thrashes, shouting, "Get off me! Get off me!" The entire cabin is in an uproar. People are shouting. Some are recording on their phones. Others are trying to comfort Ebony and Janice. Janice cradles Ebony, tears streaming down both their faces. Ebony's cheek is reddened by the blow, and she's shaking uncontrollably, struggling for breath between sobs. A few nearby passengers reach to help Janice, handing tissues and trying to offer words of comfort. One man crouches next to Ebony, speaking softly, "It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay." The flight attendant calls for any medically trained passenger to come forward. Another attendant rushes to notify the captain. Logan, still restraining Todd, speaks in a calm but firm tone. "You need to stop fighting." Todd wriggles in Logan's grip, spewing hateful language, refusing to back down. Logan can feel Todd's muscles contracting, but training and experience give Logan the upper hand. He has pinned many violent suspects, and Todd is no match for a seasoned Navy SEAL. The pilot, informed of the assault, immediately radios for ground assistance and decides to divert the flight to the nearest airport. The overhead announcement crackles. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to an onboard situation, we must make an unscheduled landing. Please remain in your seats with your seat belts fastened." Panic and confusion spread among passengers. Some try to calm children frightened by the shouting. Others are incensed, yelling for Todd to be arrested. A few cry out in shock at the blatant racism and violence. Logan keeps his hold on Todd, ensuring he can't lash out at Ebony or Janice again. Todd continues hurling insults, his face reddening with rage. He struggles to catch his breath. By now, 2 other male passengers have joined Logan in restraining Todd. The flight attendants hurry over with plastic handcuffs, typically reserved for extreme cases of unruly behavior. Todd's eyes widen with hate and fear as Logan and the other men secure his wrists. He keeps thrashing, spewing vile epithets, but the restraints hold firm. With Todd subdued, Logan asks if Ebony is okay. Janice sobs, cradling her daughter, who is trembling. Ebony manages a nod, but tears continue flowing down her cheeks. She looks at Logan with an expression of profound gratitude and lingering shock. Janice strokes Ebony's hair, planting gentle kisses on her forehead. A woman across the aisle hands Janice a bottle of water and some napkins, speaking words of comfort. "I'm so sorry you had to go through this. Are you two all right?" she asks, voice trembling. Janice thanks her but can't find more words. In the tense aftermath, the entire atmosphere in the plane is electric. Emotions run high. Some passengers glare at Todd with expressions of sheer revulsion. Others stare at Ebony and Janice with sympathy. A few try to distract their own children, who are frightened by the sudden violence. The flight attendants do their best to maintain order, reminding everyone to stay seated until landing. Logan remains by Todd's side, ensuring he doesn't break free. Todd's cursing continues, but it's becoming more labored as fatigue sets in. The pilot announces they will land in Denver due to its proximity. Medical personnel and law enforcement will meet them at the gate. Passengers silently brace themselves, some outraged, others shaken. Janice gently checks Ebony's face, worried about any serious injury. Aside from a bruise forming near her cheekbone, Ebony seems unharmed physically, though her emotional trauma is evident in her quivering lips and unfocused gaze. Janice thanks Logan through tears, words tumbling out in a flood of gratitude and distress. Logan nods, his voice steady but kind. "I'm just glad I was here. No one should ever do that to a child." One of the flight attendants kneels beside Janice and Ebony, helping them gather their belongings and move to a row farther from Todd. Another passenger volunteers to swap seats, placing a comforting hand on Ebony's shoulder. The child flinches at first, but relaxes when she realizes it's a kind gesture. She and her mother move a few rows back, away from Todd's venomous gaze. The flight attendant crouches beside them, offering reassurance and asking if they need anything. Ice for the bruise, perhaps a comforting blanket or a drink. Janice's voice wavers. "Ice might help." The attendant nods and hurries off to find an ice pack. Meanwhile, Todd thrashes against his restraints again, cursing at Logan. "You'll regret this," he spits, face twisted in rage. Logan stands guard, silent, unwavering. The other two men who assisted look equally disgusted with Todd's behavior. One mutters, "We don't tolerate monsters like you," in a tone laced with revulsion. Todd tries to lunge, but the seatbelt is wrapped around him, and the handcuffs limit his movement. He's effectively immobilized. The minutes drag on as the plane descends into Denver. The cabin shakes lightly with turbulence. Despite the tension, Logan keeps his focus. He can sense Todd's fury, almost like an animal cornered and snapping. But Todd is subdued for now. The flight attendants urge everyone to remain calm and to stay in their seats during landing. The pilot speaks in a controlled, authoritative voice, guiding the aircraft down. When the plane finally touches down, the relief among passengers is palpable. Some exhale audibly, as though they've been holding their breath for an eternity. The flight crew announces that law enforcement and medical personnel are on standby. They request that all passengers remain seated until authorities can handle the situation. As the plane taxis to the gate, Ebony clings to Janice, tears streaking her cheeks. Janice murmurs comforting words, rubbing her daughter's back. "It's almost over," she promises, though she knows the emotional scars will take time to heal. She glances at Logan, who offers a small nod. He remains a pillar of calm, and something in his posture reassures Janice that they are not alone. The aircraft finally comes to a stop. 3 uniformed officers board swiftly, their eyes scanning the cabin. They spot Todd first, pinned in place. Logan and the other men step back. Logan explains in a concise tone, "This passenger assaulted a child. He's restrained and has been hostile." The officers nod. They produce their own handcuffs, switching Todd from the plastic restraints to official metal cuffs. Todd keeps spewing profanities, blaming that family for everything, but he can't resist as he's pulled from the seat. Passengers watch, some recording on their phones, as the officers haul Todd down the aisle toward the exit. A few people cheer quietly. Others shake their heads in dismay. Todd's vile ranting continues until he's out of earshot. Then the plane seems to release a collective breath. Following the police, 2 paramedics board, carrying a first aid kit. They approach Janice and Ebony, kneeling beside them. The paramedics ask Ebony simple questions, checking her vision, pressing gently around the bruise to ensure nothing is broken. Ebony trembles but manages to answer. Janice hugs her close, tears still in her eyes. She said she's feeling okay, but her face hurts. Her head must be throbbing, Janice says, voice filled with worry. The paramedics reassure Janice, explaining that Ebony may have swelling and bruising, but they see no immediate signs of severe head trauma. They suggest following up with a doctor, especially if Ebony experiences dizziness, nausea, or any unusual symptoms. Janice nods, absorbing the instructions. Another medic checks Janice, making sure she has no injuries. Janice insists she's fine physically, though she's visibly shaken. A flight attendant speaks softly to Logan, thanking him for intervening. "You might need to give a statement," she adds. Logan nods. "Of course. I'll do whatever is needed." He approaches Janice and Ebony, carefully kneeling in front of them. "I'm so sorry this happened to you," he says gently, sincerity etched in his voice. "I'll stand by your side. Let's make sure justice is served." Janice's lip quivers. She tries to steady herself. "Thank you," she manages. Ebony leans into her mother, peering up at Logan with a mix of gratitude and lingering fear. Logan offers the girl a reassuring smile, though the sadness in his eyes is evident. This is a child's first big trauma, and it pains him deeply. Outside, Todd is taken into custody, still railing about how he's being mistreated, playing the victim. His hateful words fill the air as officers load him into a squad car. A small group of stunned passengers stands by the airport windows, watching the spectacle in disbelief. Some cry, others shake their heads. No one can fathom how a grown man could punch a small girl, let alone do so for reasons fueled by bigotry. Airport security and airline personnel instruct the remaining passengers to disembark row by row. Logan stays behind with Janice and Ebony, along with one of the flight attendants. As they exit, they see uniformed officers waiting to interview them. In a small waiting area off to the side, Janice, Ebony, and Logan answer questions for the police. The paramedics stand by, offering further assistance if needed. Janice gives her statement through tears. She explains how Todd berated them throughout the flight, culminating in the violent assault. Ebony, still shaky, confirms details as best she can. She clings to her mother, face pressed into Janice's shirt, tears dampening the fabric. Logan recounts his observations, from the earliest signs of Todd's aggression to the moment Todd swung at Ebony. The police take meticulous notes, their expressions growing more somber with every detail. During the questioning, a gentle female officer kneels before Ebony, removing her hat as a sign of empathy. She speaks softly, praising Ebony's bravery. Ebony manages a shaky smile. The officer assures her they'll do everything possible to ensure Todd faces the consequences for what he's done. Janice struggles to express her gratitude to Logan. She looks at him through tear-filled eyes and says, "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped him." Logan shakes his head modestly. "I'm glad I could step in. I just wish it never happened in the first place." Janice nods, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Me too," she whispers. Soon, they are escorted through the airport to retrieve their luggage and figure out how to proceed with their interrupted journey. The airline representatives apologize profusely, offering accommodations in Denver until the next flight to Seattle can be arranged. Janice, exhausted and emotionally drained, agrees to take Ebony to a nearby hotel to rest. A representative explains they will cover all costs due to the horrifying ordeal. Before parting ways, Logan, Janice, and Ebony stand in a quiet corner of the terminal. Sunlight streams through the tall windows, illuminating the tear-streaked face of the little girl who has just experienced an unimaginable act of cruelty. Logan hesitates, unsure if they need more space or if there's anything else he can do. Janice senses his uncertainty and reaches out, lightly touching his arm. "Thank you, truly," she says, her voice cracking. "You saved my daughter. You saved us both." Ebony nods, hugging a small teddy bear that a paramedic handed her for comfort. The child looks up at Logan with a faint glimmer of a smile, a silent gesture of gratitude that transcends words. Logan feels a lump in his throat. He kneels so he's on Ebony's eye level. "You are a strong girl," he says gently. "I know this was scary and you might feel upset for a while, but you have a wonderful mother. She'll make sure you're okay." Ebony's eyes fill with fresh tears. She nods, and unexpectedly, she wraps her small arms around Logan's neck in a brief, trembling hug. Logan's own eyes moisten. He carefully returns the hug, mindful of her bruised face, and then stands. Janice rummages in her bag for a piece of paper, quickly jotting down her contact information. She hands it to Logan. "I would like to stay in touch if that's all right. There may be legal proceedings, and I'd appreciate your testimony. Also," she pauses, "I owe you a great deal." Logan shakes his head. "You don't owe me anything, but I'll be here for you, whatever you need, I promise." He takes the paper, tucking it safely into his wallet. "You take care of Ebony. I'll follow up and make sure you get my statement in writing." Janice thanks him again, her voice quivering. Ebony clings to her mother's side, still holding the teddy bear close. They exchange a few final words before Logan heads off to speak with airport security and finish his part of the formalities. Janice and Ebony are guided toward the exit by a sympathetic airline employee who ushers them into a waiting shuttle bound for the hotel. Despite the shock, Janice feels a measure of relief. Todd is in custody, Ebony is safe, and they have supporters like Logan looking out for them. Yet, this is only the beginning of a long, emotional road. Ebony's tears finally subside as she stares out the shuttle window, the city of Denver whizzing by. Her thoughts are jumbled. Images of Todd's hateful sneer, the echo of his screams, the moment his fist came toward her. Janice, noticing her daughter's trembling, wraps an arm around her and murmurs soft reassurances. In the days that follow, the incident becomes a heated topic of conversation. Passenger recordings circulate online, showing Todd's violent outburst and Logan's intervention. News outlets pick up the story. Interviews and think pieces debate the deeper societal issues of racism, child endangerment, and airline policies on handling unruly passengers. People across the nation weigh in, many expressing outrage. Others respond with calls for stricter measures against hate crimes. Janice and Ebony, holed up in their temporary hotel, try to process the ordeal. Janice arranges for a medical checkup to ensure Ebony has no lingering issues. The doctor confirms that Ebony's bruise is superficial, but advises they watch for any signs of emotional trauma. Janice holds Ebony's hand the entire time. The child barely speaks, seeming lost in her own thoughts, haunted by the memory of Todd's rage. At the same time, Logan remains in Denver as well, delayed from his original travel plans. He stays in touch with the authorities, providing them all the necessary information. Reporters seek him out, wanting to interview the hero Navy SEAL. Logan feels uneasy about the attention, having spent most of his life operating in the shadows. Yet he consents to speak publicly in support of Ebony and Janice, clarifying what happened. He makes it clear that the real focus should be on Ebony's healing, not on praising him. Janice, feeling pressure from the sudden media interest, initially declines interview requests. She's still reeling from the shock, focusing her energy on helping Ebony cope. However, she agrees to appear with Ebony in a controlled setting, ensuring the child isn't overwhelmed. The local station arranges a calm environment. Even so, cameras and microphones make Ebony nervous. She keeps her answers short, clutching a small stuffed animal in her lap. Despite the emotional difficulty, Janice believes in the importance of speaking up. She wants people to understand that racism can rear its head anywhere, that bigotry is still alive and can do real harm. She also wants them to recognize the importance of stepping in to protect the vulnerable. She commends Logan publicly, her eyes misting over as she recalls how he subdued Todd, preventing further harm. Meanwhile, Todd languishes in a local jail, awaiting his hearing. His initial bravado fades in the stark reality of a holding cell. He faces multiple charges: assault, endangering the welfare of a minor, disorderly conduct, and possibly additional hate crime allegations, depending on the prosecutor's assessment. Reports suggest Todd has a long history of aggression. Past complaints of harassment and bigoted rants dot his record. The new charges could carry serious consequences. The day before Janice and Ebony are scheduled to continue their journey to Seattle, they receive a phone call from the Denver District Attorney's Office, requesting their cooperation. A preliminary hearing is set, and their testimony is crucial. Janice hesitates. She just wants to shield Ebony and move on. But she also knows it's important that Todd be held accountable. With a weary sigh, she agrees to comply. That same day, Logan calls Janice. "I was contacted by the DA too," he says. "They want me to testify." His voice is gentle. "Are you okay with that?" Janice feels relief flood her. "Yes, absolutely. We need you. It might be Ebony's word against Todd's if no one steps up, but with your testimony and the video footage, he can't deny what he did." Logan senses the strain in her voice. "Let me know if you need anything in the meantime," he offers. Janice thanks him, feeling a small spark of gratitude that, despite the horrific event, they found an ally in Logan. Ebony, listening in, gazes at her mother anxiously. When Janice hangs up, she tells Ebony, "That was the man who helped us. Remember him? He's going to testify against that horrible man." Ebony nods slowly. "I don't want to ever see that bad man again," she whispers, eyes downcast. Janice's heart clenches. "I know, baby, but we need to make sure he can't hurt anyone else." Ebony bows her head, her small shoulders trembling. Janice embraces her. "You're brave," she murmurs. "I'm so proud of you." After some deliberation, the airline arranges for Janice, Ebony, and Logan to return to Denver for the hearing in a few weeks. In the meantime, they are offered seats on another flight to Seattle the next morning, if they still wish to continue their original trip. Janice weighs the options. On one hand, Ebony has been traumatized. On the other, the trip was meant to be a positive, memorable vacation. She decides they should move forward with their plans, hoping a change of scenery might help Ebony begin to heal. The next morning dawns bright, the Colorado sun spilling light across the city. Janice and Ebony arrive at the airport, a swirl of emotions overshadowing them. Ebony tenses upon seeing other passengers and the security lines. She grips Janice's hand, and Janice can sense her fear. "It's okay," she murmurs. "We're safe now." To her surprise, Logan appears. He told them earlier he had some business to wrap up in Denver, but he decided to see them off. Ebony's eyes widen, and she offers him a timid smile. The child clings to her mother but looks relieved to see a familiar, protective face. Logan walks them through the terminal, helping with their luggage. At the gate, he kneels again beside Ebony, speaking quietly. "I just wanted to make sure you two get on this plane safely." Ebony nods, offering him her stuffed animal for a moment, a heartfelt gesture of trust. Logan chuckles softly, patting the toy's head. He hands it back to her. "Hold on to that. Keep it close." As they prepare to board, Janice thanks Logan one last time. "When we come back for the hearing, I'll be in touch." Logan nods. "You have my number," he says, then places a hand gently on Ebony's shoulder. "Remember, you're safe." Ebony, in a soft voice, replies, "Thank you." They say their goodbyes, and Janice and Ebony board the plane. This time, Ebony seems more subdued, anxiety pinching her features. Janice remains vigilant, scanning the other passengers. No one looks suspicious or hostile. She breathes more easily, telling herself this flight will be different. Flight attendants greet them kindly, aware of their situation and promise to keep an eye on them. As the plane takes off, Janice clutches Ebony's hand. Ebony stares out the window, her reflection pale against the bright sky. This time, there is no giddy laughter at the plane ascending into the clouds. The memory of Todd's fist lingers, haunting them. Yet, Janice silently vows to reclaim peace for her daughter. The journey to Seattle becomes a symbol of resilience, the determination to not let hate win. When they land, Ebony and Janice step onto the jet bridge with a mix of relief and lingering tension. Seattle's cool, misty air greets them as they exit the terminal. They proceed to their hotel, trying to focus on the positive. Slowly, they settle into a new routine, visiting the city's famous landmarks. They try local dishes and wander through the bustling Pike Place market, Ebony's eyes widening at the fishmongers tossing salmon. Bit by bit, Ebony's laughter returns, though tinged with a newfound awareness of the world's cruelty. One evening, Janice tucks Ebony into bed at their Seattle hotel, reading from a fairy tale book. The story lulls Ebony toward sleep, but before her eyes fully close, she whispers, "Mama, will he be in jail for a long time?" Janice feels a pang in her chest. She smooths Ebony's braids away from her forehead. "I hope so, baby. The police and the lawyers will do their best." Ebony nods, drifting into a slumber that is hopefully peaceful. Days pass, punctuated by phone calls from the district attorney's office. They confirm the video evidence from multiple passengers' phones. They piece together witness statements. The story of a racist man assaulting a little black girl on a flight has stirred up widespread condemnation. Several civil rights groups express support for Janice and Ebony. A few even offer legal counsel if needed. Janice politely explains that the DA's office has it under control for the criminal case. Still, she appreciates the outreach, finding solace in the fact that many stand firmly against such hateful violence. Eventually, Janice receives the official date for Todd's preliminary hearing. She and Ebony will have to travel back to Denver. The airline again offers to cover the costs, and Janice arranges everything. She contacts Logan, who confirms he will attend the hearing to provide his account as well. They agree to meet beforehand, so Ebony can see a friendly face. The morning of the hearing arrives. Janice and Ebony land in Denver. This time, Ebony steps off the plane with purposeful steps, clutching her mother's hand. Her eyes still betray anxiety, but there's a determined set to her jaw, something new that suggests she's trying to be strong. They find Logan waiting near baggage claim, dressed neatly in a collared shirt and slacks, a stark contrast to his earlier casual wear. He smiles warmly, his relief evident at seeing Ebony safe. In the courthouse's waiting area, Ebony fidgets with the hem of her dress. Janice runs through her planned testimony in her mind, anxious about facing Todd again. Logan stands by, offering quiet reassurances. A victim advocate meets them, explaining how the hearing will proceed. Ebony will not necessarily have to speak if they can rely on Janice's account and the video footage. Still, the possibility looms. Moments later, they see Todd, escorted by guards. He wears a rumpled suit, likely provided for the court appearance. His eyes flick over Janice and Ebony with undisguised malice. Ebony shrinks back, clutching Logan's hand. Janice stiffens, stepping in front of her daughter. Logan's gaze locks on Todd, a silent warning that any attempt at further intimidation will not be tolerated. In the courtroom, the atmosphere is charged. Todd's lawyer tries to paint him as a stressed individual who momentarily lost his temper. They attempt to cast doubt on the intensity of the blow, claiming Todd's fist merely brushed Ebony. Yet, the video footage shows otherwise. The collective gasps of bystanders, the sharp crack as Todd's knuckles make contact with Ebony's face. None of it is ambiguous. Janice testifies with composure, recounting the steady flow of hateful remarks, how Todd escalated, culminating in the unthinkable assault on her child. She speaks in a measured tone, but tears threaten to spill as she describes Ebony's terror. Ebony remains close by, her eyes downcast. Logan follows, narrating what he saw, how Todd's aggression was not just a fleeting moment, but a cumulative buildup of racist hostility. He explains how Todd's punch was deliberate, aimed at a little girl. The courtroom hushes. Even Todd's lawyer appears uneasy. The prosecutor plays the video recordings. Todd's vile language echoes through the court. The footage shows Logan restraining him as Ebony wails in distress. The judge watches intently, his face expressionless. In cross-examination, Todd's lawyer fumbles, trying to redirect blame, but the evidence is overwhelming. Todd sits, jaw clenched, eyes darting around. His arrogance seems to have dissipated, replaced by a grim realization. Finally, it's Todd's turn to speak. He shows no remorse, attempting to blame his outburst on frustration, lack of sleep, and perceived provocations. His words ring hollow in the echo of the recorded footage. The prosecutor systematically dismantles his claims. The judge makes notes and announces a continuation of the case toward a full trial if a plea deal is not reached. Todd is led away in handcuffs, his eyes burning with hatred. Ebony flinches at the sight of him, pressing into Janice's side. In the corridor outside, the prosecutor quietly thanks Janice, Ebony, and Logan for their cooperation. "You did the right thing," she tells them. "We'll make sure justice is served." Janice, tears at the corners of her eyes, nods. Ebony remains silent, but there's a slight lift to her chin. Logan, stepping back from the corridor's bustle, looks at Janice and Ebony. "Are you two all right?" he asks softly. Janice exhales shakily, her arm protectively around Ebony. "I think so," she says. "This is a lot." Ebony's eyes glisten. She whispers, "I just want it to be over." Logan crouches down. "I know, kiddo. It's not fair that you have to go through this." Ebony nods, a tear sliding down her cheek. She quickly wipes it away as if determined not to show weakness. Logan musters a gentle smile. "You're braver than you know." They leave the courthouse, stepping into the bright Denver daylight. The steps outside are crowded with reporters hoping for a statement. Cameras flash and microphones thrust forward. Janice, Ebony, and Logan try to sidestep the chaos. The prosecutor's office had suggested they refrain from detailed comments until the trial concludes. Yet a few reporters shout, "Do you believe this was racially motivated?" Janice looks at them, eyes filled with sorrow and determination. "Yes," she says simply, and keeps walking. That evening, Janice and Ebony return to their hotel, exhausted. Logan stops by briefly to check on them, offering to bring dinner. They share a quiet meal in Janice's room, the conversation subdued. Ebony pokes at her food, still processing the day's events. At one point, she tugs on Logan's sleeve. He looks down at her. "Yes?" Ebony swallows hard. "Thank you," she says. "I'm scared, but thank you." A lump forms in Logan's throat. "You're very welcome," he says gently. He wants to say more, to assure her that nothing like this will ever happen again, but he knows he can't promise that. Instead, he just ruffles her hair lightly, mindful of the bruise that's still fading. Over the weeks that follow, Janice and Ebony return to their lives, albeit forever changed. Ebony's nights are haunted by nightmares of Todd's fist coming at her. Janice arranges therapy sessions determined to help her daughter heal. She, too, attends sessions to cope with her own trauma. Meanwhile, Logan checks in periodically, either by phone or message, offering support. A bond forms between them, born of crisis but tempered by empathy and kindness. Eventually, the day of Todd's trial arrives. Evidence is overwhelming, and the prosecution is confident. Todd's lawyer attempts to negotiate a plea, but Todd's pride stands in the way. The trial moves forward, drawing public attention once again. Janice, Ebony, and Logan testify, as do several other passengers. The emotional toll is heavy, but they persevere. Todd's past comes to light, incidents of aggression, bigotry, and even minor assaults that never led to significant consequences. This time, he cannot wriggle free. The verdict is delivered. Todd is found guilty on multiple counts, including the assault of a minor, with a hate crime enhancement. As the judge reads the decision, Todd's face twists in disbelief. The gallery is silent, respectful of the solemnity of the proceedings. Ebony, seated between Janice and Logan, lets out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. The judge sets a sentencing date, but the guilty verdict alone feels like a release. Outside the courthouse, Janice clutches Ebony's hand. Their attorney advises them to avoid the press, but a few determined reporters slip through. One catches Janice's attention, thrusting a microphone forward. "Any reaction to the verdict?" Janice hesitates. She locks eyes with Ebony, who nods slightly, as if giving her mother permission to speak. Janice's voice is calm but unwavering. "We're grateful for justice. We hope this sends a message that hate has no place in our society." Ebony tugs on her mother's sleeve, and Janice gives her the microphone for a moment. The child swallows hard, tears threatening to form again, but she speaks softly. "I just want to be safe." Then she steps back, pressing into her mother's side, and the reporters respectfully lower their cameras. Logan places a hand on Ebony's shoulder. "You're going to be all right," he assures her. She nods, looking up at him with an expression that mingles relief and lingering pain. Janice squeezes Logan's hand in gratitude. She doesn't need words to convey how thankful she is. The silent understanding passes between them. In the ensuing weeks, Todd receives a prison sentence. It's not excessively long by some measures, but it's significant enough that he won't be free anytime soon. The hate crime enhancement adds weight to the punishment. Public discourse intensifies around issues of racism, child protection, and the responsibilities of bystanders. Janice's story resonates with many who have faced bigotry yet felt powerless. And Ebony's innocence, shattered but resilient, becomes a rallying point for discussions on how society must safeguard children. Logan, having returned to his life, still keeps in touch. He sends messages to check on Ebony, sometimes mailing postcards from different cities when he travels. Ebony carefully tucks these postcards into a scrapbook, a testament to someone who cared enough to stand up for her. Janice, for her part, takes time to heal as well, acknowledging the depth of her own trauma. Support from friends, family, and community organizations helps her navigate the aftermath. In time, Ebony's bruise fades, replaced by a light scar of memory that surfaces in her mind more than on her skin. She embraces therapy and grows stronger, learning coping strategies for anxiety and fear. She even starts a small initiative at her school, encouraging kindness and standing up against bullying. The principal praises her courage, and her classmates, moved by her story, participate in open discussions about empathy. Meanwhile, Janice channels her experiences into advocacy. She speaks at community gatherings and events, underscoring the importance of confronting racism, the need for people like Logan to intervene when they witness wrongdoing, and the crucial role of mental health support for victims. Her voice is quiet but resolute, fueled by the desire to protect Ebony and others like her. On a bright afternoon, months later, Janice receives a text from Logan. He's in town briefly for a speaking engagement related to his time in the military. He asks if they might meet for coffee. Janice, glancing at Ebony, who is busy with homework, smiles and texts back, "Sure." When Janice and Logan finally sit face-to-face in a cozy cafe, the conversation flows with ease. They talk about the progress Ebony has made, about the nightmares that have become less frequent, and about the future. Logan mentions his next venture, possibly working with at-risk youth to impart the values of discipline and self-defense in a positive way. Janice's face lights up. "That sounds incredible," she tells him. "Teaching them to protect themselves, but also to respect others. That's so important." Logan nods, a hint of a smile on his lips. "I realized after all these years in the SEALs, the real challenge is here at home, you know? So much hatred and division. Maybe I can help make a difference." Janice covers his hand with hers. "You already have." They finish their coffee, stepping out into the golden light of late afternoon. Janice glances at her phone. Time to pick up Ebony from a friend's house. Logan offers to come along, eager to say hello to the girl whose life he helped protect. Janice agrees. They stroll down the sidewalk to her car, discussing plans for the coming holidays. There's a warmth between them, a bond forged not only by crisis, but by mutual respect and a shared desire to see goodness triumph over hate. When they arrive at the friend's house, Ebony runs out, backpack slung over her shoulder, excitement shining in her eyes. She spots Logan and breaks into a grin. "Hi," she exclaims, hugging him briefly. She proudly shows him a drawing she made in art class, a bright scene of a sky filled with colorful shapes. Logan admires it, genuinely impressed. "That's amazing," he says. Ebony beams. In that moment, as they stand together, Janice, Ebony, and Logan, there's a sense of possibility. A reminder that darkness can be challenged by even a single act of courage, and that hate can be confronted if people are willing to stand up. The memory of Todd's fury lingers, but it no longer holds them hostage. They have, in their own way, taken back control of their lives. And though scars remain, they wear them as badges of survival, proof that compassion and bravery can overcome the deepest cruelty. Time goes on. Ebony thrives in school, her resilience and growing confidence a testament to her inner strength. Janice continues to share her story, advocating for kindness and racial equality, drawing on her own experiences to touch the hearts of those who listen. Logan finds new purpose, training young people, instilling in them the principle that true strength is used to defend, not to harm. And while none can erase the memory of that dreadful flight, they can embrace the lessons it taught them. In the face of bigotry, they learned the power of unity. In the face of hatred, they experienced the transformative impact of a protector willing to step forward. Their journey continues, shaped by a single, horrific moment that, ironically, sparked a flame of deeper compassion and courage. In that legacy, perhaps, lies a testament to hope, that even from senseless acts of hate, good people can rise and ensure that love, respect, and empathy will always find a way to triumph.